declares it is bankrupt and will only be able to provide minimal services. The world is a changing place. More on how humans were used as batteries. All this and more on today's World Situation Report. And now here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Hi, Kim. Happy Wednesday.
Yes, it is. Happy Wednesday. The week is half over. Not like that means anything, but it makes me feel better sometimes, you know?
Okay, good. I'm glad.
Lots of stuff going on this week. It's going to be a bit busy, both on, let's just say, the deep state work front and on our front. So I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of all of that. Mm-hmm. Okay, number one, the official Jackson Hole Federal Reserve Economic Forum starts tomorrow. Okay. So this is when the actors come in and start talking on TV. But as you know, like all meetings, they start a couple of weeks ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So during these couple of weeks is when all of the operatives show up and fixers and they start making different negotiations based on the upcoming year. Mm-hmm. Normally what would have happened is the orders would have come down along with money from the coven level as of the full moon the other day. And so there would be something to actually talk about. But in this case, there are no orders, there is no money, so they're negotiating anyway. There's approximately about $6 trillion worth of corporate there's $6 trillion worth of corporate contracts on the table right now. Okay. Those are for, it could be they're selling electronic equipment to the government, or it could be another government somewhere, not just U.S. It could also be infrastructure contracts, military industrial complex contracts, airline contracts, these types of things. So those things have been pre-negotiated. There is also, when you include all of the central bankers and their fixers that have been there for a while, you're looking at well over $100 trillion being promised. Yeah, and they were all expecting that money to show up on Monday, worst case Tuesday, which was yesterday. Since there is no money and there is no movement forward in any way, shape, or form, they've now said, well, worst case Friday, possibly next Monday. I know, yawn, yawn, yawn. But, I think they're in the wrong location, because Jackson Hole, for those of you that don't know, and I've said this before, but is just like here in Durango. It's just more for the Order of the Dragon side of things than in here it was more of the Black Sun side of things. So two different groups, kind of. They used to always work together. But if you were looking for money for the following year, that's where you would go. Well, that's kind of changed a little bit. You're sort of in the wrong place. You're going the wrong way. But, hey, let them go over there and talk. It's better than, wasting our time over here, because we're never going to do what they want us to do anyway. Now, as far as banks are concerned, there was a phone call that took place on Monday night from some banks and their fixers and bankers that were in attendance there. And obviously no money came on Monday, so they know they're going to have to start exploring other options, allegedly. And the question was, what do we have to do business with us? And I just wanted to clarify a few things in case they're listening. Mm-hmm. So as of this moment in time, we've kind of pretty much written off governments. It is very clear that the controlling groups of the world would like to maintain government control which they're struggling to do. This is also military control. And everybody at the party is more than willing. And this is not just the U.S. government. This is, UK. This is South Africa. This is every government in the world is more than willing to kowtow to these people and just sit there and wait until some kind of funding comes through to keep them alive. Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing they bet the farm, so to speak, on this Federal Reserve meeting because they're all now starting to explore other options. But as it relates to regular banks, they do provide a service to the people.
Sure.
Therefore, it doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to make any money because they have to employ those people. Mm-hmm. But there will be some changes to the structures in which a bank can operate in a currency system versus a money or a debt-based system. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that we, because CARE, in this particular instance, would be responsible for paying the service fees. So if they're providing wire transfers and, managing currency inflow and outflow, those types of things, since we've pretty much written off governments worldwide, they could even be responsible for printing that current country's currency for cash-based transactions in different countries. So there's a lot of different services that the U.S. And the Federal Reserve, I'm going to say the U.S. because the U.S. is involved in everything, De La Rue, which is another Rothschild company that does a lot of printing of passports and those types of things. Worldwide. Also, all of the ink worldwide that's used currently at this moment in time for printing of cash notes is also a Rothschild creation, predominantly owned by a company in Switzerland. So it's called MICR. So there's a lot of changes that need to be made in the world if we don't have governments. And the banks could fulfill some of those needs on behalf of CARE and the Office of the Comptroller of Currency, which is me. So there are services that they are probably not familiar with, at least not in the last couple hundred years since the days of the U.S. continental dollar. But we can revive some of those services and use some of the larger worldwide banks to take on some of those responsibilities for a fee. Now, that would make more sense to me than trying to figure out a way to have the Fed continue. Because the Federal Reserve is worldwide, and they manage, or used to have the contract to manage currencies on behalf of governments. And from our standpoint, when we were utilizing Alpha and we were not in a golden age, we would provide all the allocation numbers and validate them through human computer networks so that they would have their currency validated, be it digital on deposit and I'm not talking about cryptocurrency, I just mean numbers you see on your bank screen, or physical in your hand. So it's time that we kind of start thinking about a creative way now to distribute actual cash, because a lot of countries use cash in hand as a transactional for about 80% of the transactions in the country. So we need to figure out a way to do that. Now, if the banks don't step up and do that, then we will find another way to make sure that happens. But for now, we do have a backup plan for that. I'll just leave it at that. But for now, these are some of the things if banks are calling and wanting to know how they could fit into a world with us, we're kind of giving that over. But I will say the first topic of conversation that we will have with any bank is you do not have genetic shareholders anymore, meaning those family members that are currently profiting off of the banks and off of the people, claiming that they have been a part of your bank since the beginning, and they were the ones that granted you the gold to start your bank before we went off a gold standard, and or provided you with assets, allocations, and these types of things to run your banks. Now, that is no longer the case. It actually never really was the case because all of the money always came from Alpha. But none of the people on the Alpha side of things ever got any kind of genetic shareholder seat or anything like that. But it's time now with Golden Age programming and the repository that there are people that will be in charge of managing those situations. And we've discussed possibilities of people that could be in charge of managing those situations, which are well qualified. And those would become what you call the shareholders. They would hold seats on the board, that type of thing. And a lot of these people have been in the economic industry, let's just say, for years, decades. And maybe they worked for someone else in the past, but now they basically work for, us, essentially. But, we will have a hand in a lot of it, the initial structure, those kinds of things. But there'll be a significant portion that will be paid to manage that. And obviously, like if you worked for Chase and you were the managers of Chase on behalf of CARE, you would then receive the benefits of those genetic shares. And the fees that would actually be generated by your institution would be based on the amount of services you're providing to people, but not from the actual people. Not because you have custody over their money, but because we are actually providing the funds and the service fees to all the banking institutions. So I just kind of wanted to give a little snippet of things that are going through my mind when I hear, what do we have to do business with her? But you can't serve two masters. Therefore, you would be more on a restoration side. We would recreate new programs for lending, for businesses, for management of draw schedules, those types of things for both profit and nonprofit. So there'd be a lot of work and a lot of restructuring, but that doesn't mean that everybody's not going to make any money. So please, if you're watching this and you work for one of these banks as a fixer and you're sitting over in Jackson Hole right now, twiddling your thumbs till hopefully Friday or Monday. And when Monday rolls around and there's still no cash and you are still considering us as a possible business partner, these are the things that you should have in the back of your mind as you're considering coming to the table. If that actually happens. If not, we have plenty of ways of distribution of cash that do not involve government services or bank services whatsoever. So, it might take a little bit of time. There might be a little hiccup, but of course you'll all be informed before that actually happens and before there's a shortage situation. There's a big shortage situation right now, because they keep taking money out of the system, but that's neither here nor there. As of right now, I don't see them trying to crash anything or do anything until they have the money to support a tyrannical banking system, meaning it's all controlled by one of them. Next, and this is a little bit of concerning for a few different reasons. FEMA there's an article in Forbes magazine where FEMA has announced that they're basically bankrupt. That's the emergency management services here in the U.S. Well, that's what they're supposed to be anyway.
Allegedly, yeah.
Yeah. So the concerning part about this is, number one, for over a decade now on the internet, maybe even longer, there have been rumors about putting all of American citizens in FEMA camps. If you've been around in the alt media long enough, you've heard the story. Here we go. There is even paperwork that I have had cross my desk where, for example, the governor of Tennessee authorized the building of these FEMA camps. And yes, of course, right? Big Black Sun territory there, by the way. As you know, if you travel into the South, they were the last states, if they still have, and I question that, as to whether or not if you're not white, you're not right rule still doesn't exist in some way, shape, or form. But them announcing that they're going bankrupt is a positive in some ways and a negative in others. Because what it tells me is, number one, FEMA is an NGO. Even though they say it's a federal agency, it's technically not. It is a wholly owned NGO of the Rothschild family.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two, I'm not entirely concerned about people that are in natural disaster prone areas not receiving services from FEMA because they really haven't provided any services in a while. They get on TV, they make some movies, they, shake hands with the then president, whoever it is, and then they leave, basically. But this is a shout out to all of you that have, that are involved with church groups, or you're involved with any kind of community services oriented organizations, to be aware that they may not be showing up. And which, if you've ever been in service during a time of a hurricane or something, you're probably happy about that, because all they do is get in the way and try to steal all the contracts. But if you are involved, you may want to do some preparation. If you're in one of these areas, like, for example, the Florida area, Georgia, we're coming upon hurricane season now. So you may want to fill your contact list with, for example, companies that do disaster management, disaster cleanup. Prepare yourself to do emergency fundraisers if need be to help support your communities. Be prepared with extra services like that. The larger scale contracts is where you're going to see an empty hole. Large amounts of generators, these types of things. It wouldn't hurt to have some of these emergency items within your area and within your groups. See if you can find them on a discount, buy them used, whatever you've got to do to make sure that you can take care of your communities should there be a natural disaster. So this is important. The second reason why this is concerning and something to be aware of, as governments fail, it appears, and this is an indicator to me, that the first thing that is going to go how do I say this? The first thing that they seem to want to let go of is human services.
Of course,
Yeah. And what I mean by that is, think of everything that not your state, because we do have state funded things like your police department, fire departments, those kind of things. And a lot of that's paid for by your VAT tax, hotel taxes, toll booths, road taxes, those types of things. But on a federal level, think of all the services that the government provides. We need to be concerned about that, because that's probably what they're going to let go of first. Mm-hmm. So maybe keep that in the back of your mind. Now, for those of you that are on, like, for example, Social Security, disability, if you're not in the United States and you have national health services, these are things to take into consideration. Now, one thing, and it's someone I had talked to a couple of years ago during the pandemic, one thing, if you are in a state or a nation that has national health services, to consider is a lot of people, nurses, doctors, and otherwise, lost their jobs or chose not to accept jabs, and therefore are employed in other lines of work because they are still requiring said jabs. So a thing to consider would be maybe possibly trying to formulate some kind of a network there amongst these service workers that used to work for National Health Services, and possibly let's go back to the old days for a little while where we're doing home house calls, writing prescriptions right there at home.
Yeah, we ran a story on that. Was that Monday? We ran a story about that becoming more and more popular and people being more open to the possibility of home health care. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we used to do doctor's visits at home for a long time. This is not a new thing. But it's a thing that's kind of gone by the wayside, and people tend to wait in long lines. Obviously, surgeries and those types of things are not a home. They're not going to set up a surgical tent in your home. But I mean, it's definitely possible because the military does it. So they set up those things in 20 minutes or less and perform emergency surgeries all over the world. So it's not like that is even an impossibility, in the future. But they are things to consider as we go forward, because I know it doesn't seem like that big of a deal with FEMA basically saying they're bankrupt and that they're only going to be able to provide minimal services from here on out. But that goes to show you what the government is going to cut first.
How do you think this is going to impact schools, Kim? Any idea?
Well, the education departments are predominantly in the U.S., they're state by state. I can't speak for every country, even on a university level. So you're probably going to see less of an impact there. We've already seen quite a bit of impact in the public school systems as well. But to some degree, every state does get a budget from the federal government, and that kind of supports their education, which is why they adopt things like Common Core math and things that make no sense, So it could impact positively and negatively in some ways, where your local communities, I know right now here in the States, you provide as a parent a lot of school supplies at the beginning of every year, which is something we didn't do until probably the last 20 years. This is new. Fairly new, I guess you would say, here in the States. So if this doesn't happen in your area, these are things you might want to consider. You might want to consider getting all the parents together and everybody buying pencils or whatever it is, is needed in the classroom so that your child can still receive a good education. Because I know, private schooling is very expensive, and most people can't afford it. Online schooling is always an option too. But, for parents that both have to work, who's going to do the homeschooling? Who's going to be there? These are all difficult decisions to make. But getting together, maybe starting a homeschooling community group where, maybe each parent takes one day a week, or, maybe you have the school run between Wednesday and Sunday or something like that versus other days of the week where other parents can participate. So there's a lot of options, and you can get very creative when it comes to the education of your children. But as far as the public school systems, plural, because this would be every country, it is something to consider. Now, programming for the tyrannical order, as far as what they teach us in schools, which I call programming a lot of times, can be beneficial to them. Therefore, possibly it's not going to be as much of a consideration when you are looking at cutting off funding. But I don't know that. It looks like they're going to start with human services they deem as non-essential first, and then kind of work their way back. So we're starting to see that fall, that we've been talking about for months. And, they're trying to hang on because the Trump administration is promising that if he gets back into office, that he will take care of everything for every country everywhere. And life is going to be wonderful and all of this stuff. And all well, probably once a month we get begged to work with them, like we did before. And that's never going to happen. We don't support dead people for president. So we're not interested in participating in that. No matter how many times we say we're not interested, they...
They think we've changed our mind.
Yeah. Matter of fact, there was a conversation that took place over the last couple of days. And when we were transferring money to the government at that time during the old Trump administration, Tom was kind of a liaison for a lot of those people, Treasury and otherwise, Tom Melville. And the lawyers, offered that if he gets back into office, that they'd like to have him come work in the White House. I know. And they offered him a percentage of all the money that he brings in. And he's like, well, you offered me a percentage of all the money I brought in before, and I never got that either, and neither did I. So can you guarantee me that this time we'll get that? And they said, no, we cannot guarantee. And they're like, well, who wants to do that?
Even if they said they could guarantee it, who would believe them?
Well, and who hires people and says, well, I'm going to pay you $5 an hour or $20 an hour or whatever. Can you guarantee me that I'll get a paycheck every week? Well, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no. It's like, oh, okay. So, yeah, that's not going to work either. So just so the world knows, pretty much the only money that ever came into the U.S. at that time came through me. So I'm not willing to do that anymore and support what's happening there. They're not willing to leave their tyrannical leaders. They really love those people. And they apparently enjoy also being bankrupt, broke, and like scraping the bottom of the barrel to keep an organization running. So you enjoy yourselves. And maybe that's the Olympic Games of governments right now. Bottom of the barrel scraping. Come on, guys. Count your coins.
Anyone that really wants their guy to be in office right now, they should really think twice about this, because if governments are really falling, think of what that does to the reputation of your guy, your woman, your whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like the Trump team. Let's get the orange guy back in office. So this whole thing falls down on Trump's head, or whatever that thing is over there, right? Like, it totally ruins the reputation, everything. I don't know. If I was running one of those teams, I'd be thinking about everything going on right now, not just getting some guy in office.
But remember, they're all believing in fairy tales, portals, stargates, and moons, and and so there's always an opportunity between now and November to have their special moon show up, or whatever. So they're going with the flow there. 9/9 is the big day now for the Q people.
What's the significance of 9/9?
For them or for us or
in general? Is there any real significance, or do they just like nines?
996, 99.
They're like 88, probably.
998.
I don't know.
I don't know, and I'm not even sure that they know at this point. I have some speculations that I'll kind of get into when I'm done with the regular news, but I just have a couple quick things to cover. So we expect some big fallout come next week with the fake Federal Reserve contracts. They will get on the news and they will talk baloney. They could say we're going to raise interest rates, lower interest rates, inflation, no inflation, so it's something to keep an eye out for, just to see what they're actually talking about. Don't believe third-party Twitter accounts. You need to go, watch what they're actually saying, because that is what's going to affect the market. Even though they're lying, they don't have any ability to do anything but act the part. They're still acting on behalf of some tyrannical, crazy, world domination, hopeful people. So they could affect our economy in some of those ways, and that's for every country in the world. So keep an eye out, see what they're talking about. We'll, of course, report on it, come Monday with what we're hearing, as well as behind the scenes, what we're actually hearing. Now, one more thing about Trump is he is now backed by a group called the Harriman Group. It's a Harriman family. You can look them up. They also backed Bush for office. They are definitely tied to all things that go bump in the night. They are tied to the same tyrannical groups we're talking about that are forever hopeful of a gate opening in their favor. And we're going to talk about gates a little bit more here too. So, look them up, find out who you're really dealing with, whatever that thing is you're voting for. But I will say this Harriman family, and I'm not going to say much more than this. They are concerned about their investment. So when you're backing somebody for president in a very large way with large donations and they're a wealthy family, you want a return on your investment, which means that they want to be able to walk into the White House, demand this, demand that, pass this law, pass that law. That's kind of how these things have worked. Right. Major corruption here. Mm-hmm. But there is chatter going on behind the scenes that they are considering not backing the organization anymore because they are feeling they are not going to get any kind of investment. Therefore, that's why the lawyers keep calling us and saying, hey, you sure you don't want to work with us? Because they need proof of life at this point. The Harriman family is very connected with the U.S. government in a lot of different ways. They know they're scraping the bottom of the barrel. No money comes on Monday. Again, they're really starting to question their investment. You know, do they want to outlay their private family fortune to back a dead horse? Like you were just saying, you know, do you want to back the guy where things are going to fall apart? You know, at this point, unless there's a solution, that is a bad investment all around. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter which candidate you're backing. At this point, it's a bad investment. So, you know, it's starting to unravel. The whole political culture is starting to unravel. People are not getting their money's worth for backing. Then, of course, the corruption that goes along with that. So good luck to the Trump operatives on trying to hold that together, because it is without me, it is without care, it is without any kind of government funding, because there's no one left to fund you. And if you want to continue to wait for a full moon, a new moon, or a day ending in Y, or an alignment with Uranus, keep waiting, because it ain't going to change a gosh darn thing. Okay. Next, one more bit of regular news, I guess you would say. I mean, none of this is really regular, is it? But
for us, for our audience, I guess.
You know, things we see in the news, you know. Okay. The Egyptian central bank, within the last few hours, has started limiting bank withdrawals. Now, remember, they also have representatives over there in Jackson Hole. So they're starting to leak out information to their respective countries that this big central bank deal was a bust. This hundreds of trillions of dollars to various countries is a bust. So is that going to happen in your respective countries? We don't know. But limiting the amount of withdrawals is definitely an indicator that something is going on. Now, I'm going to take it one step further. How many central banks are in the know? How many countries are in the know? Now, the reason why I'm pointing out Egypt as a first is because a few months back on our beloved Q clock, Q official clock there, it said, I can't remember, this country is out and Egypt is in. Mm-hmm. So that means that the Q people are having a significant influence over the affairs of the Egyptian economy and the country as a whole, which means they're in partnership with these people, which also means they're being promised when Trump comes back into office, everything's going to be okay, guys. Yeah. You know, and they are having a grand old time lately. The Q people, the Trump operatives, let's call them, or that section of operatives, have been spending an awful lot of time throughout the African continent in the last week and a half, 10 days as well. So when the Russians kind of backed off a little bit, and the Chinese obviously lost face on the whole continent, now insert the Nazis, and they're going to try to take over the continent. I call them the Nazis. I don't know. Whatever they're, the Aryan 1, Aryan 2 groups are making a heavy push, talking a lot of smack, probably going to the Jackson Hole meeting as well. And promising lots of money being delivered during the next gateway or gate or Lion's Gate or insert alignment here. which will fail. So if you're watching this and you're with a government on the African continent and these cowboys show up, and you know who I mean, you probably shouldn't base your entire economy on what they're saying, nor your personal pocketbooks, because they always promise personal money to the tune of 10% or so. Same thing goes if you're watching this from Lebanon, Israel, Iran, Iraq, and so on and so forth. So careful, careful, because you're going to fall flat on your face just like they will. Okay, now more interesting information and data for you personally. So we know humans were used in the past to power AI systems that we are called the batteries, the good little batteries. And I've been getting some reports, which is true, of people feeling drained, like the life sucked out of them. They have no energy, for no reason. It's not like they didn't get any sleep or anything. So they're kind of questioning as to what's going on. Okay, so, and this is going to be probably a lengthier conversation at a future date as we talk about real history, but I did want to touch on it just so you understand what was happening. So we are aware that there were many portals on this planet. We were aware that there were many energy overlays on our veins of gold on this planet, many things in our atmosphere, or in our orbit that would also drain energy from Earth to open up portals. And by portals, I don't necessarily mean, just to the lower astral. Since Earth is a gateway planet and a keystone planet, it could open up portals to other dimensions, other densities for travel. You travel down, travel up, travel side to side through timelines, those types of things. Now, humans, in this case, that are on Earth, were also used to power these portals. At one point in time, you existed 10,368,000 times, and
no wonder we're so tired.
No wonder why you're so tired. You're running your life in so many different ways, those things are things that are going away. But it's important to understand what happened here, what's been happening. So based on the amount of space junk and using certain alignments with source and those types of things, Earth is getting fairly well clean as far as their ability to use the energy of Earth to power their travel between timelines, between densities, between lower astral, upper astral, all these different places. So the most recent situation that has been happening, and I'm going to say it's been off and on since November of last year, but it's really gotten strong in the last couple of months, is when they do try to open a portal to another location. This goes for the Q gateways and everything they're expecting to open. They actually, in part, come through you. So it's not a direct, like, 0 point Earth. It opens the gateway and then they come up through Auschwitz or, some of the other portals on Earth, Silverton, Colorado, or in China or in the Middle East, in Turkey or Lebanon, which they've tried. They now actually are using, or were, because the technology doesn't exist anymore, using technology to pull the life force out of you to open the portal on the other side, and then whatever they're trying to bring in here, in part, will come almost through your solar plexus on an etherical level, and then transmute itself into matter, which then becomes additional space junk on this planet, which they think is going to help them. I know.
I'm trying to wrap my head around all this.
I know.
I've also had some really weird dreams that weren't dreams, right? Like, you were somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out if this plays into that too. I had a couple really weird moments last night that I can recall, but one was specifically, I felt like I had this deep state general in my ear. Like I could hear him, like if you had, like a headset on and you were talking back and forth with someone, although I wasn't actually talking to him, but I could hear him giving instructions.
Yeah.
And and I started messing with him. He got so mad because I don't know if you knew it was me but I was messing with the connection somehow.
Uh-huh.
He was like, F and F. I mean, it was like cussing up a storm. But I somehow interfered with something that he was trying to do. I'm trying to figure out if that's like related to what you're talking about.
Well, and remember, they count on the fact that you're not aware because you're supposed to be sleeping at this time.
Yeah.
Now, here's another little interesting factor about sleeping during, since now they're trying to use us. And remember, this version of the deep state, what we have left, is not really adept at doing this. So it's not a shock. Well, it's not a shock to me that they were shocked to find out you knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And remember, certain people are just prime batteries. So they head for those people first.
Yeah.
Especially ones that are known to travel on their own.
Right.
So, not last night for me, but it was the night before last.
Okay.
Is when it was nuts, just absolutely insane. But an interesting little tidbit with this new SourceGate, thing we have now, is sleeping. Let's talk about sleeping. So they use your sleep time or nighttime. I mean, for two reasons. Number one, they use nighttime because in the past, it would be more. Dark portals would be more available because, they're always looking for something in the dark, of course. But also because as a human, when you're now being used not only as a battery, but also as a Stargate portal, you are using less energy. It requires less life force for you to exist during these times.
Okay.
Now, you are also more susceptible to, how do I say this? Thinking it was all a dream. This isn't really happening. Wow, I just had the weirdest dream that I had, General whatever, trying to drag me down a hole to this other world, or contact an alien race through myself. And this is weird, So the shocking factor for them, for you, Sunny, was probably that they're like, oh my God, she knows. She's listening to this whole conversation. Disconnect.
Yeah. And I was doing other astral travel last night. So I don't know if that was like honed in on me, but I had some crazy places I was last night.
Yeah.
It was like part of my whole experience last night was this deep state general in my ear. He was so mad at me.
Well, now, okay, I'll touch base on the sleeping thing because this is something you might find rather interesting as well. So when you're laying in your sleep with your solar plexus, obviously we know where the solar plexus is, and you're laying flat on your back. Your solar plexus is in alignment with the earth.
Okay.
No matter where you are, and in alignment with 0 point earth, and then therefore in alignment with source, and in alignment with the veins of gold. So as hard as it is for some of us to sleep on our back, that's the reason why people tend to fall asleep in this position. They feel calmer in this position. When you are meditating, people like this position. This is mainly as of late.
Okay.
And of course, connecting to the earth or sleeping on the earth would even be like more ideal. There's nothing in the way. Not to say everybody needs to go sleep outside, but just giving you kind of a clue. But here's the interesting part. Because your solar plexus, especially over the last 2 or 3 days, because the deep state obviously is messing this up, as you now know, a lot of us do travel in our sleep. We have that ability. Or during meditation, we have that ability to travel to other worlds, to talk to other people. Some of us do, some of us don't at the moment, because that's not always going to be the case. And the ones who do light up for them like a Christmas tree. So you were going out and about doing your thing wherever you were going. And then they're like, get her, follow her. She's opening the portals, because that's what you're doing. You're opening a portal to another world in which you're walking right into. And that could be a world that exists in this reality or one that didn't exist in this reality.
I don't think it was not this reality. That's not where I was.
Yeah.
There were clones everywhere. It was a crazy mess where I was.
Well, you could have been walking into a future timeline that they were trying to implement. And that's why you all of a sudden started hearing this guy talking. And you're like, what is this? You know?
It was so weird.
Because they were trying to get you to open that reality for the whole world, probably, where there was nothing but their little AI clones on this planet. And they'd be more than happy to have that happen, or bring those things back with you. But when you're sleeping on your side, with the technology that they were using, it actually would open up portals to neutral timelines and dark timelines. Wow. Because your solar plexus is perpendicular to the Earth, therefore it's subject to some kind of subject to an outside influence.
You know, weren't we always taught we had to sleep on our right side? Isn't that like what they kind of teach you, that that's better for alignment or whatever? Or is that just some deep state nonsense?
Well, they say it's, if you're sleep on, like when you're pregnant, they tell you that too. Sleep on your right side, not your left, or whatever it is. There's other religions that promote sleep on your right, not your left and not your right. I mean, which one is right? I have no idea. But the only thing I can say is with the technology that they're using right now, what it appears is that they cannot interfere when you are connected with Earth and with Source, meaning laying flat on your back. But the second you roll to the right or roll to the left or are standing in a different way and that alignment is not there, is when they try to get you to open up to all these other worlds. It's really weird.
And that's funny last night too, because I was going back and forth, and I don't usually have an issue with like where, how I go to sleep or whatever, but I was like tossing and turning, and I was like, well, maybe I'll try my side. And maybe that's when it happened, because I was trying to sleep on my back, and for some reason it just wasn't comfortable. And maybe that was like, she's on her side. Go, go.
Go. Get her now.
Oh my God.
I know.
Crazy.
Anyway, just interesting information about portals. This technology has been somewhat used by humans for a while, although it has existed for a long time. Currently, the way that it was being used, because the main facility is not there anymore. Your general that you were talking to last night, I don't think you're going to hear from this person anymore as of this morning. I know.
Conversation.
I know no one weaves a tapestry of profanity in your ear at 2:00 in the morning like that, right, Sonny?
No. Right.
Hopefully it was a once in a lifetime experience now that, it's over. But I'll tell you, not last night, the night before was just horrific all night long. I could hear them all. I could see them all. Everybody was trying to figure out a way. The funny part is that they should have just let me go to sleep.
And try to control you that way?
Yeah. But
again, they don't really know what they're doing, right? It's like giving toddlers, tools, and they, you know what I mean? It's like, when are they going to mess up now?
I know. God bless them the way they bless us. That's all I have to say. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting. Without being able to utilize humans in any way for this, and it's a system that has to break down. So are we done yet? I don't know. 100%. We'll find out probably later today, and I'll report to you on Friday that bit of information. But yeah, it looks like most of the facilities aren't there. Most of those connections through the Cancer, it's the constellation of Cancer where it used to connect to. Some of the parasites and implants connected to the Cancer constellation actually cause cancer.
Look at that.
Well, and then the funny part about it is that a lot of these programs, in how they started infecting humans, and making humans their portals or amplifying their portals in one way or another was actually done utilizing various pandemics. And like typhus was one of them. You've heard of that. And syphilis, another. And, and cancer obviously is another. And the interesting part about it is that, before every war, every major world war, there's a pandemic of some sort. It could be a flu pandemic. It's been, World War II. It was actually the same virus, not norovirus, a coronavirus of some sort, was the one that right before World War II. So, right before the war, there's some kind of a pandemic. We get some kind of infection, some kind of portal opens. We have a world war, and then the world has changed. Is that because they're opening portals? Are they getting help? Is it opening portals to Omega? I wonder, about that. So little mysteries that come up and things that I always think about as a strategist, like, how do they do this and how do they affect us? So hopefully, if there's anything left to clean up on that front, we can do so in the next couple of days. That's, my hope. But they're not able to use us anymore, so that's a positive thing. So no more generals in your ear. Now, on other fronts, the marketplace is coming along very well. We've seen some mock-ups, and we're adding some features and these types of things that are not only for the customers, but also for the clients. We're also developing product display cases, so to speak, for e-commerce, where it will highlight your products in such a way that looks a lot nicer than some of the other major marketplaces you see out there. So we're going for something that is a little bit more elevated, that makes your products look more attractive, neutral colors so we don't distract if your product has colors to it, those types of things. The customer experience, we're really going for something positive there as well that you don't find on other sites. More communications, more direct communications with the vendors and technologies, being able to set up appointments locally and online for things. So I'm really happy with that. But I had a question for all of you. So if somebody wants to get on our social media, on our app, and post the answers to this, I'd really like to hear it. So number one, these are the three things that we'll probably start out the header with. Number one, tell us one thing that you like about shopping on your favorite marketplace, whatever that is. Meaning, you've got eBay, you've got Amazon, you've got Poshmark, you've got Mercari, you've got lots of different ones out there depending on where you are in the world. Alibaba for some, for commercial uses. So tell us what you like. Favorite experience, a feature that draws you back there time and time again. And then something you don't like. And then one thing, these are just one sentence each, so we can gather some information. One thing, if you were to create your own marketplace for multiple vendors, please also define if you're coming from a vendor standpoint, someone who sells, or you are coming from a customer standpoint. And if you are a vendor, you can also do a customer profile. If you're a customer, you can also do a vendor profile, like if you do both. So one thing you would like to see in a marketplace that you think would make the difference for you as a store owner or you as a customer. So that would be great for us to hear so that we can start talking to our team that's in development right now and see if it's possible to add in some of those features now or in the future. So, if you want to have your input, because this is pretty much for you guys. It's not really for us. This is for all of you. So if someone would like to start that thread, maybe we'll have one of the admins do it or something so that we can go in there and then pull some information so that we can, obviously present the best marketplace we can for all of you. So that's an exciting development on our side. Also, you'll probably see me around a lot more, other than this picture that doesn't change.
Just cut out your lips and your lips could just move. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm going to change up my schedule a little bit. I'm going to try to be present with you more often on the news, actually my shiny face, hopefully. And then we have some other things that we're going to start doing for UNN as well. That we're kind of excited about too. Maybe I'll finish up or at least have some time to start working up some more of the series that I started and didn't finish. So that'd be good. And, some of those things over the course of the next 60 days. So got to get with production on that. But I'm looking forward to having a little bit more of a balance, instead of constantly running to do the news, running to finish the things that are in the news, talking a lot more about care, different programs and projects that we have going on, and those kinds of things in the near future. Bad guys are always going to be bad guys, but at this point, they don't really have a whole lot left to talk about. And after the departure of these guys that they had here, they really don't have any outside help, I hope. I hope that's it. Hope. And if they're resorting to talking to you in your head, Sonny, at night, and
you must be scraping the bottom of the barrel, guys, if you're doing that.
I know.
Come on.
Well, that's probably a technical glitch. They probably didn't know that you could hear them until that's probably why they started swearing there towards the end. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
They've tried to follow me places too in the past. I mean, I'm awake when I'm doing this, but they have, to try to get access to systems. Where's the control and command, that kind of thing.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah. And it's a long way down from there, ladies and gentlemen, if you decide you want to try that. It's a long way down. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at as far as, I guess you'd say other side news and this side news and that side news, and kind of cover all your bases.
So are we close to Lincoln Logs? We used that term a lot. I don't know, 6 months, a year ago, or whatever. Like, are we there? Or what do you think?
Yeah, I don't even trust them with Lincoln Logs anymore, really.
You guys don't even get toys. You don't even get Legos. Those things can hurt your feet, too. So you don't want to have those.
No pickup sticks, no jacks.
No.
You're old enough, Sonny, to remember jarts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely no jarts. We all sustained at least one jart injury if you ever played with jarts here in America. It was an American toy. But yeah. So.
Well, all right.
Yeah, I really, truly hope so. I know they're really desperately trying to open portals, come September 9th. I'm sure there'll be another day ending in Y where they're expecting something else. And then, of course, you got the Harvest Moon, which is supposed to be the family meeting, and they're supposed to hand out contracts, like they used to do every year. That's not going to happen. And then everybody will be waiting for the selection, beginning of November. Mm-hmm. And then they'll say, we have to wait for the inauguration. And then they'll put whoever they're going to put in there. And, and then nothing else will happen after that in January. And they'll limp along, keep going, for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what about clearing space junk? We talked about that a little bit on Monday. Have you seen less and less of that junk? I'm so curious after those guys made
Yeah, we have.
Good.
We have.
Okay.
This portal system was part of the space junk clearing thing, but even that was fairly minimal. We didn't see a ton associated with it. Some stuff in the Cancer constellation, Sun, Moon, obviously the moon would be involved because it's a nighttime thing. As you align with the moon aligns with the earth, and you're right in the middle. They could use you in some of those ways. But other than that, not a lot. Not a lot of new stuff, let's put it that way.
That's good. So it's not reappearing like it was before.
Yeah, that was really frustrating for a while there when, especially within computers, we would take out a line for their off ledger trading, and then we would, see the next morning there's another one. And I'm like, oh, where is this coming from? We're not seeing a whole lot of that anymore. And portals that you open to another time also open other times in computers too. Almost like a system restore you do with your computer. If you get a virus, you'll do system restore back to before you got the virus on your computer. It's kind of the same thing, but you're going to another timeline in this particular instance, or another point in time when it functioned. But I'm not seeing any of that in the last couple of days. Nothing new. There's been a few times they've tried to install, FedNow, to some remnant in human computers. Yesterday, it's some laboratory in Boston. Funny you had that in the news for something else. I'm like, it's Boston Laboratories, I think it's called, and Research and Development Center. They were trying to install in human computer networks the COVID-19 systems, those kind of things. But it wouldn't have functioned to the degree that they needed it to. It's not going to function and attach to your body, or anything anymore, because human computers aren't capable of doing that. Even their beloved blockchain. So I'm not, it's kind of stuff like that, that I'm seeing. They'll wait until the third day after the full moon and go for it, Or they're panicking because there's no money over there and they need to have money by Friday to pay all their people, including Pentagon's expecting money on Friday too, and the rest of the militaries as well. And of course, a little bit of a musical chairs going on in the Middle East. Iran's kind of backed out on the whole World War III attack Israel program for now. They have tried to get the Iranian loyalists in Iraq, called the PMF. I think it's called the People's Movement. And they are talking about attacking American bases again. I don't know. Maybe they convince them they actually have some money. Don't know. There's some talk about that. We went from the Iranian boogeyman to the Saudi Arabian boogeyman to the Russian boogeyman in the last 48 hours since we last spoke for the World War III thing. I don't know. It just seems like they're having a really hard time getting people to go for it without the money.
Yeah.
So, or, the promises aren't holding up anymore. But you got to hand it to these three groups that are really trying to, the Aryan 1 and 2 and, so where are we going to go from here? And I don't know.
Do you think they're going to still keep up the Russia-Ukraine war? At one point we said, well, they're talking about wrapping that up, but you won't hear about it for a while. Where do you think that stands now?
Well, the Ukrainians are the Aryans. That's why we played that video. Remember, they're all in for the cause.
Okay.
To create a superior race of Ukrainians, I guess. I don't know. But they're totally still following orders and instructions. Okay. Financially speaking, they have gotten some money. I know that, not a ton, but enough to keep their propaganda going. And predominantly it has come from the Amish, Germanic tribe, Aryan folk is where they have been backing them, as of late. Obviously there's a deal being made there. They owe them something. So, money is not free when it comes to those people. We have also seen some involvement of the Polish moving equipment into the Middle East. We've seen some Polish C-130s and, looks like they're moving something into the Middle East. In Iraq, we've seen some of the Spanish military transport units coming in, which is weird, but new players in the game, let's just say. New people they haven't raped and pillaged to holy high heaven are now somewhat participating, it looks like. So, yeah, we'll see if the Reich, we have the Reich 1, Reich 2, Reich, dragons everywhere. I don't know.
I know. Sometimes don't you feel like this is an episode of Game of Thrones? It's like, who else wants to come vie for power? Who else wants this seat?
I know. Who else wants this seat? Speaking of wanting the seat, there was a machine in Kentucky that the Germanic tribes in America, let's just say, were trying to use to open portals and, go back in time, system restores and those kind of things yesterday, early in the morning, overnight, my time. And on the flip side of it, when they failed, then the other side of the Aryans basically claimed that they are the bloodline of the Abraxas, and the Abraxas are the only ones that have the keys to the gate. You see.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And I don't know who's running the Q show, but, they even mentioned it, that who is the gatekeeper? Who is the only one with the keys? Well, apparently it's the black nobility in their mind. Who knows? But they don't have any keys to any gates and nobody's opening anything. And that's the end of that. So, I wish them all the best in the world. That's the second thing. Next, the Q people have announced that you are now on lockdown until it's all clear to leave your homes. Everybody assumed. Yeah. However, it was from the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, which is a small Caribbean island, and they're not on lockdown right now either. So maybe they're just getting sloppy over there. So if you're in the U.S., and he claimed this was for the U.S., you are on lockdown until you're given the all clear to leave your home by the Prime Minister of St. Lucia.
Interesting.
I know. Who knew?
Who knew?
Maybe he's running for president, too.
Honestly.
I know. God bless them all. Mm-hmm. Beautiful island, though, if you ever have a chance to visit. Great diving. Mm-hmm. But not on lockdown.
Not on lockdown. Well, that's good. Nobody wants to be on lockdown.
I know.
Have you continued to run money transfers? Are we still doing that? I know there's a lot of other stuff going on.
I have not in the last week, no. I have not. But I intend to, now that things are kind of mellow, you're not being used as a portal, I'm going to go and probably start working on that. I have been working on human computer networks and trying to make sure that they don't do anything that's going to harm us.
Yeah.
And sometimes that takes precedent. Yesterday was just one long giant day, from Monday to Tuesday to this morning. It was like one long day. Last night wasn't too bad. There was a few hours of sleep, but the night before, none. I think I slept from 3 to 4:30, something.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. But, so hopefully things will mellow out a little bit. I think it's going to be better for me to work on my own a lot more, meaning not on the phone, not broadcasting a lot of stuff, as far as what we're doing on our side of it. And especially things that are, we're kind of in the middle of.
Sure.
And because I think they're getting a lot of information, when I'm working while I'm on the phone with other people, I think I'm going to probably cut back on that a little bit, keep it down to a minimum, and just kind of work on my own, which is going to open up time to do other things as well, because it'll be on my schedule now. Mm-hmm. And it won't be 14 hours a day or 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day, with 3 other people who also would like to have a little bit of a life. So for me, it's more about, what we can offer you, what kind of tools we can offer you, how we can help you as humanity, which is ultimately going to help all of us too, mm-hmm. In our lives. We'll all have access to better products, better, tools, better things, more information, more history. Ultimately, if we're going to raise up humanity, it's our job. So That's all of your jobs. This is our field messengers as well, to talk about things that are going on in your area so we can talk about solutions in your area. So if we do start having field messenger reports like that, where people are having issues, wouldn't it be great to see your field messenger report highlighted with possible solutions and things you could do? That'd be pretty cool.
That's cool.
Coming from us. So we're looking forward to changing things up a little bit in the coming months. So I'm excited about that myself. Definitely.
Anything but your crazy schedule, I think, would be a welcoming for you.
Yeah, as long as we're not all going to die of something, I definitely am still working on clearing human computers and those kind of things. But, I think that part of it seems to be coming to an end. I'm not seeing influxes of things as we have days, times, Q clocks and what they're expecting. And, and a lot of that was coming from other folks. Mm-hmm. Just so you know, Abraxanarians 2.0 or 1.0 or whichever one you consider yourselves, we do not have any Abraxas left.
All gone.
No, not in space, not in time, not in other timelines, not in other densities or dimensions or anywhere. So if you think they're coming to open your gate, you'll be standing there for a long time, waiting. Yep. As for us, we're wide open. Yeah. We're going right to source.
Yeah.
To the point where we can now sleep on our side safely, Bunny.
Yes. So we don't have to all just sleep on our backs anymore. Now we can turn to the side.
Now you can go to the left and to the right.
Okay.
You can do the sleeping Cupid shuffle there, Sonny. To the left. I felt like I was
doing that last night.
I know. Now, kick.
My dog was like, "What are you doing? Stop."
Mine just goes and sleeps on the floor.
So mine refuses. Mine has to be in the bed with my husband and I. And I'm like, even with a king size bed, this bed is not big enough for the three of us. Sorry. No way. 50-pound dog. Come on.
I know, right?
Anyway. All right.
Mine's bigger than that.
You want to say something else?
She's bigger than that. Mine's, it's just me, so.
Yeah. What, you have like a 60, 70-pound dog?
Oh, Cheska's, is Francesca is her name, but we call her Cheska for short. She's, she got a little chubby because Mom's been working a lot and hasn't been walking her quite as much as I used to.
Oh, I thought you were going to say because you were baking or something.
No, she's a retriever, so they gain weight pretty easy. She was 90 pounds.
90 pounds, really?
Yeah, she's
pictures. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
We won't tell anyone that's listening to this news.
Well, she's back down to probably about 80. She's lost about 10 pounds now.
Okay.
But I was like, for a while there, I was like, oh, girl.
Cheska happens to the best of us.
I know.
It happens.
I know. It happens. You gain 20 pounds, you lose 20 pounds. Oh, but she should be probably about 70. Like, that's about the norm for her. So we got to work on it.
All right. Well, thank you, Kim.
Thanks, Sonny. Have a great day.
All right. You too.